Few video game franchises command as much anticipation as Konami's Silent Hill. Alongside Resident Evil, the series is famed for being one of the original icons of the survival horror genre that has gone on to inspire titles like Dead Space and the Callisto Project. Considering that legacy and how long the series has been on hiatus, the recent online event showcasing the future of the Silent Hill franchise was a huge deal for fans. Silent Hill hasn't seen an installment since Silent Hill Downpour in March 2012, so it's no wonder that anticipation for a new game has been so enthusiastic. Since that release, the closest fans have come to a new title was PT, directed by Hideo Kojima in collaboration with Guillermo del Toro. The game was a teaser for Silent Hills before its cancellation due to Konami and Kojima's falling out. After that there seemed to be a new rumor about Silent Hill every few weeks, but now, October 2022's Silent Hill Transmission has offered fans the welcome news of multiple new projects in the works. After years of rumors and speculation, Konami has officially announced the Silent Hill 2 remake, confirming the studio behind the project as well as the fact that the game will be a PlayStation 5 timed console exclusive. Konami kicked off its Silent Hill event with the blockbuster announcement, showcasing footage of the Silent Hill 2 remake while also providing insight from the developers on what the project will entail. The Silent Hill 2 remake is being developed by Bloober Team, the studio best known for games like Layers of Fear and The Medium. The Medium itself had a lot in common with classic Silent Hill games, so it seems like the Silent Hill 2 remake is likely in good hands. Original artist Masahiro Ito and original composer Akira Yamaoka are also involved in the game's development. For the most part, it looks like the Silent Hill 2 remake will be faithful to the original game, but with updated graphics and important changes to help it meet modern standards, like switching to an over-the-shoulder camera and using motion capture for the animations. The Silent Hill 2 remake trailer shows protagonist James Sunderland exploring the creepy town of Silent Hill. Silent Hill fans also get a glimpse at what some of the game's iconic creatures look like with updated visuals, like the creepy nurses and of course, Pyramid Head. No release date was given, but fans can expect the Silent Hill 2 remake to be the first release in Konami's attempt to revitalize the long-dormant horror franchise. Those that have been following the Silent Hill 2 leaks and rumors will be unsurprised by much of this information. It's long been rumored that Akira Yamaoka was composing music for a Silent Hill 2 remake, and that the game was in development by Bloober Team. The reveals announced during Konami's Silent Hill Transmission may or may not be what longtime fans have been hoping for with the franchise, especially due to some fans' conflicted thoughts on Konami or its previous Silent Hill games. Whichever way Bloober intends to approach Silent Hill 2, it is almost certain that the original game's iconography and basic essence will be faithfully iterated upon. The trailer's visuals are obviously improved in terms of its graphical fidelity, whether what was shown was simply cinematic or in-engine. The opening sequence in Silent Hill 2 is echoed, for example, where protagonist James Sunderland stares at his reflection in a public washroom's mirror. James' anguish is accentuated in the remake with a modern interpretation's technological advantages. If Bloober is attempting to recreate every cutscene precisely as they were, then that is all well and good. However, there are several key features that a remake may need to part with if it wants Silent Hill 2 to be truly modern. There are localization nuances in Silent Hill 2 that a modern remake may not retain. The particular delivery of character dialogue, for example, is almost guaranteed to change, and will inevitably alter how original scenes from Silent Hill 2 are perceived. The goal of every remake may be to retain and embellish the original game's iconography, with the hope that it is faithful while still introducing visual and mechanical improvements. Bloober is not known for featuring a lot of actual gameplay mechanics aside from exploration via walking around. Therefore, Bloober's approach to combat could be implemented in any conceivable direction. The Silent Hill franchise is certainly not known for having the most fascinating or satisfying combat, making combat a relatively low bar for Bloober to traverse. Since the remake will have an over-the-shoulder perspective, it is assumed that combat will be heavily influenced by Resident Evil, Dead Space, the Callisto Protocol, and other horror titles that have adopted the same action shooter mechanics. As a survival horror game, it will be interesting to see how inventory and ammunition management is implemented, or if enemies take more damage before dying. Melee combat also needs a considerable overhaul, and it was teased during the transmission that the original game's grab-escape animation may be returning. Because no release window was offered, it is difficult to imagine when fans may hear about the game next, but Bloober will hopefully have gameplay to show when Silent Hill 2 rears its head again. Later, the Silent Hill 2 PC requirements were revealed, confirming that gamers will need a powerful PC if they hope to run the new survival horror game properly. Now more information has been revealed about how the game will use the PS5's DualSense controller. It's been confirmed that Silent Hill 2 will utilize the PS5 DualSense controller's haptic feedback and adaptive triggers, with Bloober Team pointing out how it utilized those features in its game The Medium. Specifics on how exactly haptic feedback and adaptive triggers will be used in the Silent Hill 2 remake will have to wait for another day. But there are other ways that the game is going to take advantage of the PS5's hardware. It's also been confirmed that the Silent Hill 2 remake will take advantage of the PS5's 3D audio. This combined with the WI's sound engine will allow the developers to create a realistic and believable soundscape, which should be instrumental in enhancing the Silent Hill 2 remake's atmosphere and scare factor. The PS5's SSD has also been mentioned, with the developers pointing out how it means the game will not have any loading screens. As far as Unreal Engine 5 goes, Epic's new creation tools will allow Bloober Team to give the Silent Hill 2 remake impressive graphics, as evidenced by the gameplay shown in the reveal trailer. Players can look forward to highly detailed and realistic levels, which should pair well with the audio advancements in making the Silent Hill 2 remake as scary as possible. Bloober Team's president has revealed a few important details regarding the development of the Silent Hill 2 remake that was announced recently during Konami's latest broadcast. Some interesting tidbits of information came from this, such as the fact that the game was developed back in 2019 and the company behind the funding of this project. This was revealed by Bloober Team President Piotr Babino during GPW Innovation Day. There, the executive revealed several facts about the development of the remake. The most noteworthy of these is the fact that the game has been in development for 3 years and has recently reached the late stage of development. Currently, the team is working on polishing various elements. The timing certainly is important, as Konami announced during that time that console gaming was still an important asset to them. It also wouldn't be surprising if this were the game that was supposed to be released in 2021 but was internally delayed with no fanfare due to COVID-19 concerns. Speaking of which, Babino also stressed that the game's release date largely depends on Konami. While nothing regarding a release date has been made known yet, Babino believes that the Japanese company will share some information regarding the subject soon. Bloober Team's president also revealed that the Silent Hill 2 remake's budget was entirely covered by Konami itself, probably as part of the partnership that the two studios have entered. They also elaborated on the partnership with Sony to take advantage of the features of the PS5, and thanked them for believing in the studio for the revival of such a legendary universe. Additionally, he revealed that the Krakow team is already receiving funds for completing various key milestones. If successful, under the contract, they will also start earning extra money from the game. The team expects the Silent Hill 2 remake to sell at least several million units. A release date for Silent Hill 2 has yet to be revealed. Built with Unreal Engine 5, the remake is coming to both PC and PlayStation 5. The game will be a timed exclusive release, as revealed by the game's trailer. The Silent Hill franchise has made it to the big screen a couple of times already, but with the franchise as a whole making its grand return, the movies are back too. Video game movies have changed a lot since the first film in the franchise came out, but there are upsides and downsides to what we know so far. As part of the expansive and shockingly impressive Silent Hill transmission, Konami has revealed the future of a franchise that many feared might never return. Though many are thrilled to see new survival horror experiences, excitement for their on-screen efforts is less common. Return to Silent Hill will be something of a reboot of the on-screen adaptations of this beloved series. Unlike competitors like Resident Evil, Silent Hill has only taken a couple of shots at cinematic success. The teaser for the new film revealed no footage but did unveil a few key elements about its production and intent. The film is set to be directed by Christoph Gans, who established his bona fides with the 2006 original. Gans is reportedly an enormous fan of the franchise and worked for 5 years to convince Konami to hand him the rights. The other notable point of the trailer is the limited concept art. Return to Silent Hill is a direct adaptation of the most highly praised entry in the franchise, Silent Hill 2. These elements combine to leave fans wondering about the film's possible fate. The 2006 film adaptation of Silent Hill isn't the best video game movie ever made, but it's among the most faithful to the source material. The general lack of quality in the sad industry of video game cinema allowed it to rise easily through the ranks, but now that a few have come out and been good movies, it looks a little less rosy. It's a retelling of the plot of the first game, but not a direct adaptation. It follows a new protagonist, takes monsters from multiple games, and it feels like a new spin on the concept. Gans' love for the franchise shines through. The film is a fantastic experience for fans. On its own, it's a bit messy, but Silent Hill is a solid adaptation and a decent horror film. Gans has absolutely proven that he's a great candidate to make a film out of this franchise, and it's great to see him back on the project. When Gans initially reached out to Konami, the movie that wound up on the screen isn't the one he had in mind. He originally wanted to go straight for the throat and make a movie out of Silent Hill 2. It's the fan-favorite entry by far, and that's part of the reason the company was so unwilling to part with it. Gans eventually realized that he'd need to make an initial film before he could reach for his beloved James Sunderland, but his opportunity was taken away from him for years. Now, he can finally set to work on a direct adaptation of one of the most iconic and well-received survival horror games ever made. The issue with this should be obvious. One of the benefits of the Silent Hill franchise is its anthological structure. Anyone could tell a new story within the universe, they just need a new protagonist with the kind of story that would lead one into the foggy New England/West Virginia town. There are countless reasons why a video game wouldn't fit the world of cinema. Maybe the story is only good by video game standards, or maybe it's just too derivative of existing movies, or maybe gamers just aren't interested in the adaptation. Silent Hill 2 doesn't have any of those problems, but it loses so much from the lack of interactivity, that it's still a terrible candidate. The best version of a Silent Hill movie would tell a new tale within the same world, written specifically to fit the medium and crafted to best take advantage of its strengths. A direct adaptation of Silent Hill 2 will lack much of the impact of the source material and risk irritating fans. Christoph Gans will almost certainly make something great with Silent Hill 2. But, even if he somehow perfectly captures the spirit of the game, he can't capture key elements of the experience. Gans has been trying to make this movie since the game was released way back in 2001, and fans are undoubtedly eager to see what he does with it. His name attached to the project, along with the 16 years of development in the world of video game movies, are elements that inspire hope. Despite the promise of the crew and the project, it's still a bit harrowing to see someone try yet again to bring one of the great interactive experiences to a passive medium. A great story isn't devalued by the medium of video games, and some stories need a controller to reach their full potential. Konami has confirmed that Silent Hill Townfall is currently in development. The announcement came as part of the Silent Hill transmission presentation. While only a teaser trailer was shared for Silent Hill Townfall, the game's developer and prior leaks provide an exciting glimpse of why the project is exciting. Silent Hill Townfall is being developed by No Code Studios, a co-production with Annapurna Interactive. No Code Studios is best known for two projects, Stories Untold and Observation. Both titles are adventure puzzle games, the first an episodic horror anthology and the second a larger sci-fi thriller, though Observation certainly has its horror inclinations. Based on its past work, it's easy to see how No Code is a solid choice for a Silent Hill project. The trailer for Silent Hill Townfall is suitably cryptic and offers very little in terms of direct information about the game. Voiceover stating that, "You are here to be punished," is heard, along with lines about being stuck somewhere, judgment, and other generally frightening commentaries. The visuals of the trailer swap between a pocket television flashing cryptic maps and charts intermixed with violent imagery, and a beach scene with the water coming out layered with a red filter. Leaks surrounding Silent Hill Townfall have indicated that No Code is making a suitable follow-up to its previous projects. The new game reportedly focuses on short-form horror stories, much like Stories Untold. It's also been described as episodic, though it's unclear if that means it will be released in pieces or is simply referring to the anthology structure of the Silent Hill game. It's also said that the game was shopped to multiple different teams prior to No Code, including the project that Supermassive eventually turned into the Dark Pictures anthology. Suffice it to say, there's a lot left to be discovered about Silent Hill Townfall. The trailer reveals very little about the game, but it does an excellent job of building atmosphere. In that regard, Silent Hill Townfall is exciting as a project from the beloved horror game franchise. If the atmosphere is correct, the gameplay will benefit. With just Silent Hill Townfall's announcement to base these theories on, fans are pointing to small details such as the game's title and the retro-style transceiver as subtle indications that the new game will be taking players back to the town's origins. As the original Silent Hill was set in the 1980s, this aligns fairly well, and the new title evokes the idea that players will see how the town descended into its current limbo state between the real world and the other world. But what causes this descent could be waiting for players in Silent Hill Townfall. Though the teaser announcement for Silent Hill Townfall was limited in terms of visuals, providing audiences with alternating scenes of a retro-styled analog transceiver in a beach. A narrator was giving vague, cryptic lines about the presumed protagonist. From questions about why they were there to what they'd done to deserve to be there, the trailer calls back to previous Silent Hill games and their exploration of human nature and inner demons. It even gives the slightest of allusions to some other dark, bigger picture, style purpose for the protagonist. What this means for Townfall's story remains unclear at the moment, but it does seem to suggest that the town is already on the cusp of descending into the state seen in the original title. With a rich history of games to build a foundation for the origins of the series, Silent Hill Townfall could take any series of approaches. For example, it could dive headfirst into the darker religiosity seen in Silent Hill 3 and reveal more about the old gods that have manifested across many of the series' games. However, it is worth noting that Silent Hill Origins also exists and was positioned as a prequel to the first Silent Hill game. Despite its namesake, Origins focuses much of its story on the characters and events leading up to Silent Hill and less on the town itself. Townfall then could be an even earlier look into the town's history and religious background, or its position as a spin-off could imply that it will take a new direction. Perhaps similar to Silent Hill Shattered Memories by spawning its own new timeline for future games to follow. Without knowing more about Silent Hill Townfall's gameplay, it's impossible to say just how true of a successor it is to the Silent Hill franchise. One of the reasons why fans have been so eager for a new Silent Hill game is because Konami cancelled Hideo Kojima's Silent Hills. While the publisher seemingly has no plans to revive that project, one secret within Townfall's trailer suggests No Code will invoke its demo from a visual perspective. That's because, on the CRT, a hallway briefly shows up that bears a striking resemblance to those seen in the PT demo. The reveal of Silent Hill Townfall was one of the less enlightening of the broadcast, revealing very little about the upcoming title, not even the platforms it will release on. It is known that the game will be published by Annapurna Interactive and developed by No Code, the indie studio behind Stories Untold and Observation. However, as mysterious as the teaser might seem, No Code creative director John McKellen pointed out that it might be worth watching that trailer again and seeing what you might have missed. A number of Silent Hill fans did just that and uncovered a few secret messages. The trailer centers on a CRTV pocket television with a voiceover seemingly speaking to the viewer. Interspersed throughout is static and dramatic music. Reddit user MilkmanEX downloaded the trailer, extracted the audio to an MP3, and plugged it into Audacity, where they discovered that its spectrograph hides the text. Whatever heart this town had has now stopped. Other fans played the audio backward and uncovered a message that references Alessa, one of the primary characters of the first Silent Hill game who also appears in subsequent entries in the series. This, along with the game's title and the retro feel of the trailer, has led some to theorize that Silent Hill Townfall may be an origin story of some sort. Furthermore, some viewers analyzed the flickering images on that retro CRTV screen and noticed that one of them has the text, "Thy flesh is weak," along with 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 more dots, which is Morse code for SOS. But the discoveries don't stop there. On October 21st, both Annapurna and No Code tweeted out staticky images of a house. Comparisons showed that the two pictures were very slightly different. Savvy Twitter user YAPT0 subtracted the images from each other and uncovered another Morse-coded message reading, "I don't know how to leave." No Code acknowledged the discovery with an "I'm really proud of you" meme. That may not be all there is to uncover in the Silent Hill Townfall teaser trailer. A few people on Reddit think that, at timestamp 033, they can hear the words, "Is that really Alessa?" Either way, it seems that Townfall may be going back to the dark cult roots of the series. What is exciting, though, is that No Code has shown itself to be a talented horror game developer, and it now has the opportunity to show that with a massive franchise. It is just one of the multiple exciting opportunities for the Silent Hill series to have a resurgence in the next few years.
And I don't want to be anywhere near you when you figure that out.
Konami has announced Silent Hill Ascension, an interactive media project from co-developers Genvid and Behavior Interactive. Silent Hill Ascension stands out from the rest, however, as a cross-media effort mixing live storytelling and interactivity. Interactive media projects have seen a surge in popularity in recent years, with Black Mirror Bandersnatch on Netflix being the most popular and successful. Silent Hill has also made previous efforts to gain a foothold in film with Silent Hill in 2006, Silent Hill Revelation in 2012, and the upcoming return to Silent Hill film. Silent Hill Ascension will be branching into previously unexplored ideas, offering a new way for Silent Hill fans to experience the horror franchise. While little has been confirmed regarding Silent Hill Ascension, what has been confirmed is that it's an interactive video streaming experience. The announcement trailer indicates viewers will be able to watch together, chat within the community, and directly influence the experience's direction through interactive elements. In addition to developers Genvid and Behavior Interactive, J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Games and video game-to-TV production company DJ2 Entertainment, a team designed to bring this kind of project to life. At Behavior Interactive, the Dead by Daylight developer, is associated with the project is certain to instill excitement in Silent Hill Ascension. It's Genvid's past work that's likely to be more akin to what Silent Hill Ascension will become, though. Genvid says it makes Miles, or massively interactive live events. A video from Genvid shows its Miles projects can dynamically change a stream's content based on chat interactivity, while retaining static elements like dialogue and key story beats. Genvid's most recent Miles project, yet to be released, is Rival Peak. Rival Peak is a digital reality show experience where streaming audiences decide who is eliminated each week, listening to their private conversations and supporting their survival experiences. While the experience is live full-time, a weekly roundup show would focus on key moments like a regular appointment-style television show. There have been decision-based stories in horror games before, like Telltale's award-winning The Walking Dead series. Players could influence the outcome of the game and help shape the stories, but while it felt like there were incredibly high stakes at times, gamers were still only able to play through the various strands of the developer's narrative. Games like The Quarry and Until Dawn continued to evolve this trend, ensuring that players could have completely different playthroughs that depended on their decisions and the fates of the entirely disposable cast. Silent Hill Ascension takes this another step further, and will be even more hands-on as gamers take on the responsibility of not only choosing how the story plays out, but what the future canon of the Silent Hill series is. This democratizes the storytelling of video games in a way that hasn't been explored before, and will let everyone get involved and shape the world of Silent Hill in their own way. Fans will be able to be an integral part of the series while engaging in an exciting, innovative way to immerse themselves. Kavak's assertion that it will revolutionize what horror means in interactive media is bold, but Silent Hill Ascension might just pull it off. Konami concluded its Silent Hill transmission event with the reveal of a brand new Silent Hill game. Silent Hill F. Konami's Silent Hill transmission included the official announcements for projects long rumored to be in development, including the PS5 exclusive Silent Hill 2 remake and the brand new Silent Hill game. Silent Hill F was revealed with a teaser trailer that gave fans a general idea of the vibe the game is going for. It shows a woman running through a hall, tormented by plant-like tendrils coming out of the walls. Notably, the game is set in 1960s Japan, which stands in stark contrast with previous games in the Silent Hill series, most of which have been set in the United States. Judging by the trailer, it also looks like body horror is going to play a role in the game, though fans still have a lot left to learn about the project and exactly what it will entail. We do know that Silent Hill F is being developed by Neobards Entertainment, the same studio behind Resident Evil Reverse, and that the story is being written by Japanese writer Ryukishi07. The trailer was merely a cinematic, though, and so it's hard to make any determinations about the gameplay. The fact that the Resident Evil Reverse studio is working on Silent Hill F may be concerning to some fans of the franchise. As Resident Evil fans will recall, the Resident Evil Reverse multiplayer experience was originally meant to launch alongside Resident Evil Village last year. Reverse is now expected to drop on October 28 alongside the game's Winter's expansion, and the beta wasn't good. What makes the announcement of Silent Hill F so special is the reveal of the key staff working on the title. Konami has enlisted Chinese studio Neobards Entertainment to develop the title, with Luigi's Mansion and Pikmin producer Motoi Okamoto and Spirit Hunter Death Mark and NG artist Kara. The biggest surprise, however, was the game's lead writer, beloved visual novel author Ryukishi07, most famous for his work on Higurashi When They Cry and Yumeniko, When They Cry. Ryukishi07's hiring could be exactly what the Silent Hill series needs in order to move forward, and his inclusion gives Silent Hill F a ton of potential. As previously mentioned, Ryukishi07 is a beloved visual novel writer known for the Higurashi When They Cry series and, more recently, its sequel series Yumeniko When They Cry. Higurashi When They Cry debuted in 2002 and was released in chapters until 2014. It is a series of murder mystery, psychological horror visual novel games that mainly focus on storytelling and has been released on various consoles throughout the years, including the PS2, Nintendo DS, PS3, PS Vita, and most recently a Nintendo Switch, PS4, and PC via Steam. The Higurashi When They Cry series follows the story of a group of high schoolers trying to solve a murder case in their village that has continued for 3 years. They soon find that the murders are deeply connected to the history of their village and a series of murders that occurred throughout the 1980s. The narrative ties in elements of supernatural Japanese horror, Japanese history, and intense violence to offer one of the purest psychological horror experiences in a visual novel. All of which is translated into its many adaptations, be it anime, live action, manga, and even more. This style of psychological storytelling has become a trademark of Ryukishi07's work, bleeding into his work on Yumeniko When They Cry, and further spin-offs in the When They Cry series, most of which at least center around a series of murder mysteries. This indicates why Konami would be interested in the Silent Hill series. A major issue that fans have with the Silent Hill series following the original 4-team Silent games is that, despite the series historically taking place in a fictionalized American town, the original games had a distinct Japanese charm to their approach to narrative, game design, and horror. This is part of the reason that later games like Silent Hill Origins, Silent Hill Homecoming, and Silent Hill Downpour failed to recapture the unsettling, offbeat atmosphere of the originals. While it is a surprise to see Silent Hill F pull the entire setting of the fictional town to 1960s Japan, Ryukishi07's involvement in the story makes this Silent Hill F's greatest asset. Ryukishi07 has also been praised for his ability to balance tone, with the When They Cry series often shifting from intense, dramatic horror sequences to humor at the drop of a hat. This could be something interesting to see in Silent Hill F, as J-horror such as the works of Takashi Miike and Junji Ito have been praised for their ability to blend disturbing, dark humor amid their most horrific sequences. For years, Ryukishi07 has been telling gripping and horrific stories of murder mysteries set in small Japanese villages like the one depicted in Silent Hill F's announcement trailer. His knowledge of Japanese folklore and ability to blend it with supernatural horror will likely to take the Silent Hill series in a brand new direction, perhaps one more akin to the likes of Fatal Frame. This is almost certainly the right call following the series' decade-long absence and its almost 2-decade-long absence from being developed in the country it originated from. When looking at the trailer for Silent Hill F, it is clear to see that Ryukishi07's influence has significantly impacted the direction of the game. There is a lot for fans to analyze in the trailer and many details that have people speculating their meaning. Nearly all the games in the Silent Hill series, except for Silent Hill Shattered Memories and Silent Hill For the Room, share a common setting, the titular town of Silent Hill. The small foggy town is a fictional location somewhere in the rural northeastern United States. From the first shot of the Silent Hill F trailer, players can immediately see that the location is somewhere different. The trailer shows a rice paddy and an abandoned Japanese street shrouded by the cover of night and a layer of fog. Fog is a common motif for Silent Hill, though it is obvious this is not only a different location from what fans know, but a different time period as well. The story of the game will be set in Japan during the Showa period, which lasted from 1926 to 1989. In particular, the game seems to be set somewhere in the 1960s. The trailer shows a schoolgirl running through the town and features some sort of red floral infection spreading throughout the town. The girl walks by a rusty chain link fence as she drags a pipe along the ground, similarly to the iconic Pyramid Head. Much like the town of Silent Hill in the other games, the town shown here is somewhere rural and is likely away from any sort of big city. Viewers can see dilapidated wooden buildings and shots of a sort of mountain range overlooking the town. The town of Silent Hill and the other entries in the series can still be compared to this town so far, since barely anyone can be seen in the town and a dark fog would shroud what little there was to see. Through Silent Hill, the player character experiences a dark alteration of reality and the mundane world blends with the supernatural. This switch between reality and the supernatural can be seen in the trailer with the Torii Gate in the Field of Flowers. Torii Gates represent the border between the material world and the sacred worlds in the Shinto religion. It is not uncommon to find them in Japan, though they could represent something more for Silent Hill F. Throughout the trailer for Silent Hill F, red flowers sprout up, infecting the small town. It starts with a schoolgirl standing by a shrine with these flowers, then shows them slowly spreading into different parts of the town. These red flowers are seen creeping along windows and consuming an Ikematsu doll until the walls are completely covered with this red infection. The red flowers form tendrils and wrap around the schoolgirl as she tries to get away until the trailer cuts to a shot of what is assumed to be that girl completely consumed by these flowers. The flowers bud out of the girl's skin and grow into a field around her in a visual similar to the real-life bleeding tooth fungus. The corruption of this town through flowers is similar to the rust-covered otherworld from Silent Hill. The flowers that are predominantly shown throughout the trailer appear to be Lycoris radiata, otherwise known as red spider lilies. These flowers are commonly used in Japan to surround rice paddies and houses to pests away, since they're toxic when eaten. Many Buddhists also plant these on graves as a tribute to the dead. They can also symbolize death, final goodbyes, abandonment, and bad luck. Symbolism through flowers is not new to the Silent Hill series, particularly in the Silent Hill 3 song titled Flower Crown of Poppy, which plays during the normal ending of the game. In a similar vein to red spider lilies, poppies can be known to represent peace through death. Death is a very common element throughout the Silent Hill series and usually relates to the playable characters on a deeply personal level. There is no confirmed character yet, but from what the trailer has shown, Silent Hill F will focus on flowers and growth as a common motif. The growth of certain flowers is not uncommon for games, playing a significant part in titles like Metal Gear Solid 3 and Drakengard 3. The red spider lilies in the trailer indicate that Silent Hill F could feature themes like peace through death or consumption by grief. Whatever Konami and Ryukishi07 have planned is likely to keep in tradition with the Silent Hill series by having deep messages conveyed through metaphor and environmental storytelling. Acknowledging that the plants and flowers set to appear in Silent Hill F will likely draw inspiration from real-world counterparts and their associated meanings. The creature spawned from an otherworld abloom could be unique for both visuals and gameplay. The flowers could be used to denote symbolism to creatures, such as the chrysanthemum connecting to Silent Hill F's WW2 proximity and history of Japanese imperialism, possibly appearing on enemies intended to parallel soldiers. Other flowers might include the Japanese camellia or lily, both of which have specific meanings tied to their various colors, with examples like the red spider lily symbolizing a final goodbye. Alternatively, Silent Hill F might use flowers to inform enemy design, with examples such as doll's eyes watching the play and alerting nearby enemies, or dead man's fingers serving as an environmental trap of a hidden enemy's hand for unsuspecting players. In extension of this, the girl from the teaser overrun by flowers seems not too dissimilar from the infected of The Last of Us canon. So Silent Hill F could introduce creatures that were also once human but have been taken over by flowers. But while the infected behaved like little more than zombies, Silent Hill F's flower creatures could tie to the series' supernatural roots. Silent Hill F's setting within the show period already gives fans a decent idea of what sort of story the game could explore. Narratives about imperialism, a loss of innocence, death and destruction, and the collapse of Japanese imperialism could all factor into Silent Hill F's story if it looks to the bigger picture of the setting's history. But the game could equally explore some of these aspects and others on a smaller scale, threading Silent Hill's exploration of trauma and sex. Provided the teaser is hinting toward a female protagonist, by using concepts from geisha to comfort women. The exaggeration of beauty through the flowers, despite the clear gruesome implication they bring, could speak to women's experiences during the war, and the enemies could be a reflection of those experiences. Silent Hill F's teaser, for example, shows both the girl and a geisha-like doll getting ensnared by creeping vines. Something which could symbolize the pervasive intent of men through sexual abuse and might have flower-based creatures attempting to capture and corrupt the player. Since the teaser also shows how these flowers take over and sprout from bodies, it could also be that players in Silent Hill F will be fighting a losing battle against encroaching flora. Some may be concerned about Konami outsourcing development of these new Silent Hill game projects regardless of who is involved. All the new Silent Hill projects that were announced during the Silent Hill Transmission event are being handled by other studios. For example, the Silent Hill 2 remake is being made by Layers of Fear developer Bloober Team, while the newly announced Silent Hill Townfall is being made by No Code. Silent Hill series fans have a lot of new merchandise to look forward to, courtesy of the recent Silent Hill Konami event. While the event itself mostly focused on new games coming to the series after a long period of stagnancy, the merchandise primarily revolves around established games, giving longtime fans a chance to get something celebrating their favorite titles. The Silent Hill event held by Konami has revealed a slew of new games that are in the works, including Silent Hill F, Silent Hill Townfall, and the Silent Hill 2 remake. Prior entries to the game series have received statues, Figma action figures, and fashionable garments. And this particular reveal has unveiled that the series classics are getting even more attention in the form of merch. During the Silent Hill presentation, Konami showed off a series of collectibles that are slated to come out. Silent Hill 2 and 3 are getting the most attention, but there's some pieces based upon the first and fourth game, as well. Silent Hill 2 in particular is receiving numerous statues based on James, Maria, Pyramid Head, and the Bubblehead Nurse. A diorama depicting James and Mary fleeing from Pyramid Head in an iconic scene is also being produced, alongside some pins. Fans of the dog ending may be particularly amused and pleased to learn that a reproduction of the dog and its control board are being made as a coin bank. Silent Hill is also receiving a series of skateboards based on the franchise. 4 designs have been revealed, which are all launching in 2023. Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, and The Room are each receiving a release, based upon the Incubus, Pyramid Head, Robbie the Rabbit, and Eileen, respectively. The boards are available for pre-order at $90 each. Lastly, a plush of the Silent Hill 2 dog Mira and a variety of hats, shirts, and signs based on the franchise are available for pre-order, with deliveries ranging from the end of 2022 to early 2023. How well the Silent Hill games will do on arrival remains to be seen. Silent Hill 2's remake, in particular, has big shoes to fill if it wants to impress fans who love the original. However, even if the upcoming Silent Hill games fumble, a nice collection of merchandise celebrating the series' favorites that started it all will likely be a success for Konami and well received by longtime fans of the Silent Hill series. I just hoped we get a Silent Hill 1 remake, before Silent Hill 2, but we getting all these games, so I can't complain. Konami's recent Silent Hill franchise reveals have given credibility to year-old leaks about the company's Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid franchises. The Silent Hill Transmission event was quite an exciting time for survival horror fans, as Konami used it to reveal multiple Silent Hill projects that are in the works, ranging from video games to other kinds of media. During the Silent Hill Transmission event, Konami announced the long-rumored Silent Hill 2 remake as a PS5 console exclusive developed by Bloober Team. Silent Hill Townfall from No Code and Annapurna Interactive, an interactive media project called Silent Hill Ascension made in collaboration with Behavior Interactive and J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. The Return to Silent Hill movie, a bunch of new Silent Hill merch, and a brand new game known as Silent Hill F. But the Silent Hill Transmission event was exciting for fans of Konami's other neglected franchises, too. as the announcements have given old leaks credibility. Last year, VGC published a report about Konami's video game plans, citing sources familiar with the company. The report mentioned multiple Silent Hill games in development that were supposedly being outsourced to other companies. This was confirmed to be true by the Silent Hill transmission event. The same report also mentioned that Konami would be doing these reveals at some point in 2022, which also came to pass. Since this information from the leak is correct, it makes it much easier to believe the other claims made. As far as Castlevania games, it was reported that the new game is meant to be a reimagining of the series, though what exactly that means remains to be seen. As for who is developing the game, the VGC report said that Konami is actually working on the game itself, as opposed to completely outsourcing it like it's doing with many of the Silent Hill projects. Castlevania is one of gaming's oldest and most beloved franchises, so it will definitely be exciting to see it make a comeback. However, there may be even more fans excited about the potential for the Metal Gear Solid franchise to find its way back into the spotlight. The same VGC report has good news for Metal Gear Solid fans, because if the report is accurate, they will have multiple projects to look forward to as well. The big project mentioned in the VGC report is a Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake that is supposedly in development by Virtuos. This stands in contrast to rumors that Bluepoint could be making a Metal Gear Solid remake, though that doesn't mean the older games in the series are going to be neglected. Apparently, Konami is looking to remaster the older Metal Gear Solid games before the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is out. Of course, fans should still take this information with a grain of salt. While the Silent Hill reveals validated much of the leak, it's always possible that plans will change or that some of the information is inaccurate. Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid fans should wait for official reveals before getting too excited. I believe they are coming back, and I want a Castlevania Lords of Shadow 3. Capcom has released a new gameplay trailer for the Resident Evil 4 remake that confirms some major gameplay changes while also showing off enhanced combat and the infamous Chainsaw Man, aka Dr. Salvador. As expected, Resident Evil 4 had a major presence at the latest Resident Evil Showcase event, with Capcom giving fans a lot of exciting new footage to check out. The new Resident Evil 4 remake gameplay trailer started with protagonist Leon S. Kennedy entering the villager's home from the beginning of the game, much like he does in the original. However, it quickly becomes clear that the house in the Resident Evil 4 remake is much different from the one fans may remember. It's bigger, grimier, and generally made to look creepier. This time around, Leon has to go into the basement to investigate the house, and that's where he fights his first infected villager, as opposed to right on the first floor as in the original version of the game. The Resident Evil 4 remake is clearly going for a scarier atmosphere than the original RE4, but that doesn't mean it's going to be dropping its action or cheesiness. The gameplay jumps to the famous village scene from the original Resident Evil 4, where Leon has to take on a swarm of villagers all at once. It's here where fans can see that Leon still has his signature melee attacks at his disposal, including a devastating roundhouse kick. But he has some other impressive moves up his sleeve this time around as well. In the Resident Evil 4 remake, Leon can kill enemies with brutal melee attacks using his knife in a manner that was not really possible in the original release. Beyond that, Leon can parry with his knife to ward off enemy attacks. This includes parrying a chainsaw, which shows that while the Resident Evil 4 remake seems to be more serious than the previous versions of the game, it's still going to be plenty ridiculous and over the top. Leon's encounter with the Dr. Salvador seems to have some extra wrinkles to it this time around, with Salvador using his chainsaw to cut down a scaffold and block a path. One has to imagine that this will make this section of the game more difficult, as Leon will have less room to run. However, he does now have the ability to light cows on fire and have them rampage into the villagers, so that should help even the odds a bit. Resident Evil 4 Remake looks like it will be paying homage to the original game without being afraid to expand its horizons a bit. The Resident Evil 4 Remake story trailer shows Ashley, Luis, Salazar, and more. The iconic characters of Resident Evil 4 return with designs that are both familiar but also new. The Resident Evil Showcase revealed information on a handful of soon-to-come games. This includes the much-anticipated Resident Evil Village Winter's expansion story trailer. And also the remake of what some players and critics consider to be one of the best survival horror games of all time. Just like how updates to the Resident Evil 4 gameplay were shown, the same can also be said for the characters themselves, for they are both familiar but also surprisingly fresh in their designs. The new story trailer for Resident Evil 4 opens with what looks like Ashley Graham, the president's daughter, being used for a ritual by the Las Plagas infected villagers. Players were also treated with a glimpse of Osmond Sadler, who remains largely unchanged from the original design, and even Chief Menendez sporting his classic trench coat and beard. But this time with a very fashionable top hat. We get our first real look at Ashley Graham, the president's daughter who Leon is sent to rescue. Ashley has received some criticism from fans in the past, but judging by her introduction in this trailer, it looks as if Capcom will be giving the character a welcomed update. Ada Wong is also featured in the trailer, displaying a similar design to her updated appearance in the Resident Evil 2 remake. It is not just the heroes that fans got to see, but also the enemies, such as the troll, and the right and left hand of Salazar. Speaking of Salazar, this character seems to have gotten the most notable update. Salazar appears much more feminine and mature looking than in the original, whereas before they had come across as young and childlike. It is unclear if Salazar's aged look is from the Las Plagas parasite or if it is just a different adaptation. There is a list of things that the Resident Evil 4 remake must avoid, but hopefully changing too much of what fans love about a character does not negatively impact the experience. However, there are welcome additions that are expected to be made, such as how Ashley was captured, and further details of the psychological toll that the events of Raccoon City had on Leon. There's a lot going into that famed greatness, and Resident Evil 4 still stands as one of the most influential third-person shooters on the market. The gunplay was far above what many other game developers were putting out at the time, and the highly interactive enemies offered lots of room for player improvement. Resident Evil 4 has been played and replayed many times, and those who love it know it inside and out. The Resident Evil 4 remake will be under heavy scrutiny by them, and a lot of finer details are already proving to be different. Only the final release will confirm if these are truly better or worse, but it's definitely clear that RE4's remake is giving combat a major overhaul. One of the first things that veteran Resident Evil 4 players will notice is that Leon can now shoot and move at the same time. In the original Resident Evil 4, aiming locked Leon in place and displayed a red laser for accurate shots. Archaic by modern standards, but definitely helped at the time, and made the game more accessible on Nintendo consoles. The laser sight on Leon's pistol has, at least for the game's opening, been replaced with a standard reticle, but there's more to do than just steady one's aim. Battles have ramped up in speed and complexity, with the gameplay trailer showing Leon running all over the Ganados village. It's packed with enemies, and the player will need to use every tool they have to avoid being overwhelmed. Fortunately, the Super Cop-turned-government agent has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. The sprinting and vaulting of the original Resident Evil 4 is back, and he can also jump off of roofs to ensure that players will rarely be cornered. What's new is the amount of interactivity in the environment. The big one shown involved Leon shooting a lantern over a cow to send it charging into encroaching foes, complete with a context-sensitive one-liner. Even enemies can get in on this, as the chainsaw-wielding Dr. Salvador is shown destroying the wooden supports above a path and carving through a barricaded door. News outlets with access to a demo have also reported that the iconic tower in the center of the village isn't safe, as Salvador can collapse the structure and finish off a downed Leon. General enemies are even more intimidating than they were in the original Resident Evil 4. New hardware means it's possible to spawn more at once, and the hordes in the base game could already feel quite large. Without Leon's iconic head or leg shot followed by a roundhouse kick, these angry masses would be too much. As it stands, Ganados can still grapple with Leon from the front to strangle him and from behind to restrain him. Unarmed Ganados can now also use quick punches at short range, meaning Leon is never truly safe when next to an enemy. It remains to be seen how other Ganados have evolved, but considering that variants in Resident Evil 4 only had a couple attacks apiece, there's a lot of room for improvement. While fans worry about the empowered parasitic cult, they can at least take solace in a couple new methods for defense. Leon can crouch, and reportedly has access to stealth takedowns when foes aren't aware of him. This won't always be an option, and it's unclear if stealth can be re-established in areas meant for combat. Even so, Leon has gained the ability to parry any enemy that's about to attack him. It appears that Capcom has tried to retain the usefulness of the dodge and the infinite knife of Resident Evil 3 Remake, with both combined as a parry with normal and perfect timings. Skilled use can prompt some classic RE4 cheese, particularly when Leon rams his knife into an oncoming chainsaw in a shower of sparks. The window to parry enemies seems generous, and there's a good reason for it. Leon's knife has taken on a life all to its own in the Resident Evil 4 Remake, allowing him to quickly dispatch enemies grabbing him, parry many attacks, and even instantly kill downed enemies. This seems like an upgrade from the static swipes of original RE4, but it all comes at a cost. Leon's knife has durability like the knives in the Resident Evil 2 Remake, and he will need to repair it using scavenged materials. Observant viewers have noticed that perfect parries only drain a bit of durability, so players need to manage their personal skill and resources to make it through the Spanish countryside. The knife is the default melee weapon in 2005's Resident Evil 4, unbreakable and assigned its own button on the controller. Players can hurt, stun, and outright kill enemies with the knife thanks to its ability to do a considerable amount of damage on vital weak spots. This turns the knife into a viable option that players can use if they want to save on ammo. The knife is so popular that players looking for a challenge can use it by itself on some of the game's bosses, with the most popular knife boss battle being Krauser. Aside from its primary function as a close-range weapon, the knife can also be used to open breakable boxes and crates that sometimes hide collectibles and supplies. With proper timing, players can even use the knife to block certain ganado projectiles like crossbow bolts and hand-thrown axes or scythes. When the going gets rough and the ammunition is low, players can always count on the knife to get them out of sticky situations. In contrast to the original knife, the tool shown in the recent Resident Evil 4 Remake extended gameplay trailer looks like it will share a lot in common with the knives found in the Resident Evil 2 Remake. The knife is now breakable, as evidenced by a durability meter located on the heads-up display. This might allude to an unannounced gameplay element that requires players to find more knives throughout the world if it eventually breaks. Actions that cause the knife to break were shown in the trailer. The knife can be used to quickly break out of an opponent's grapple and do a good amount of damage in the process, as opposed to breaking free in a way that causes Leon to lose more health and do less damage. Breaking out of an enemy grapple with a knife requires players to sacrifice some of its durability, but it looks like Leon gets to keep his knife after escaping an enemy's clutches. For reference, knives used to break out of grapples in the Resident Evil 2 Remake were lodged in enemies until players defeated them and picked the knives from their corpses. The knife in the Resident Evil 4 Remake can also be used to finish downed enemies with a quick button press, though it does not look like this action costs any durability. Yet the most interesting feature of the new knife is that it lets Leon parry oncoming attacks, particularly those from a chainsaw ganado, which originally had unblockable swings that would kill players in a single hit. These attacks, when combined with their absurdly high health and stun resistance, made them one of the deadliest characters in the game. Though the extended gameplay trailer cuts to black soon after the parry, it can be inferred that blocking such an attack could drastically reduce the knife's durability or break it after a single attack. With this new feature present, it may be possible for Leon to parry other lethal attacks. The aforementioned crossbow bolts and thrown projectiles come to mind. Though the knife may not be exactly the same as it was in the original game, it looks like it will still be a versatile tool for the upcoming Resident Evil 4 Remake. Its damage potential is still there, and the ability to break out of tough spots via counters and parries may make it stronger than ever. Players definitely need to keep an eye out for more of these items, or an unbreakable variant, when the game comes out if they want to increase their chances of surviving Leon's second encounter with a nightmare virus. Hopefully with these major overhauls the Krauser boss fight will be more expanded, and not a mere quick time event only. The recent Resident Evil showcases look at the Resident Evil 4 Remake has officially unveiled the return of the Merchant, as well as Leon's attaché case. During the showcase, expectant players were given a brief look at the Merchant and Leon's attaché case, and how their functions are similar but also evolved from the original game. The attaché case, for example, looks and functions almost identically to the original, tasking players with carefully managing their space using a grid system that determines how much can be carried at any one time. Players will be able to actively synthesize ammunition and healing items by accessing their attaché case and the items they've collected through the game. The merchant's return to Resident Evil 4 has been eagerly awaited by many fans, and he made an appearance in today's showcase. His appearance is similar to the original game, and he can be seen summoning Leon over to look at his wares in his first appearance, just like in the original. However, there have been some changes. In addition to buying and selling items, Leon will be able to exchange recovered gems and loot for said items. This is a change from the original, which saw collectible loot being exchanged for pesetas, the game's standard currency. This could open up pros and cons, as it may make weapons a bit more difficult to afford. But it could also help players in critical need of healing items and other assistance who may not have the cash to cover it otherwise. In the original Resident Evil 4, the merchant, who is never revealed to have any other name, is a friendly Ganado that chooses to assist Leon Kennedy throughout his mission to rescue the president's daughter, Ashley Graham. So far, it looks like the merchant's role will be roughly the same as the original game, which was selling weapons and items to Leon, and also upgrading his weapons. The merchant could also increase Leon's inventory space by selling him larger attaché cases, which have also been confirmed to be returning in Resident Evil 4 Remake. The merchant's UI has been posted as a screenshot by the official Resident Evil Twitter account. The amount of money and tradable items Leon has in his inventory is on display in the top left corner. There are also options to buy, sell, and tune up, which all return from the original Resident Evil 4. A new feature will allow Leon to trade a specific currency, which appears to be akin to pink gemstones in the screenshot, can be traded for special items, such as other treasures, a red dot sight, and the Punisher handgun, which is also returning from the original game. While the Resident Evil 4 Remake is confirmed to have some big changes, it appears like the merchant will just be expanded upon instead. The functionality of the merchant's shop appears to be the same as the original game, only expanded upon in small parts. A big change is in way the shop is presented to the player. It appears that merchant is more interactive than he was in the original game. In the original, the merchant was not present in the system's UI when buying or selling items. There were just 3 gray areas to select from for buying, selling, or upgrading. In the remake, he is on screen and has even more dialogue, similar to the Duke in Resident Evil Village, who served the exact same function as the merchant in that game. With the merchant confirmed to be making a return, along with his iconic "Stranger" line, it's clear Capcom is focused on not just making a game like the Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 3 remakes, but also focused on finding ways to bring back all the characters from Resident Evil 4 in faithful but modern ways. The attaché case and the merchant are both iconic elements of Resident Evil 4, and fans seem to primarily be pleased by their reappearance. The inclusion of the attaché case in the original Resident Evil 4 allowed players to carry a bit more than some of the prior games, while still challenging them to pick and choose what to keep, maintaining the survival horror theme. While his voice actor has changed, the merchant's return and existence seems to be appreciated by many fans, with Resident Evil Village even referencing Resident Evil 4's merchant at one point. It's clear that Capcom is aware of some of the most iconic elements of Resident Evil 4, and has taken that into consideration when developing the remake. The Resident Evil 4 remake looks like it's going to be making a heartbreaking change from the original game by killing off the dog. The Resident Evil 4 remake looks like it's going to be a mostly faithful recreation of the original RE4 while still making some serious changes. As revealed by the latest Resident Evil 4 remake gameplay trailer, the new game is going for a darker tone, while expanding some areas and injecting new surprises to throw veteran RE4 players off guard. In the original Resident Evil 4 game, Leon encounters a dog stuck in a bear trap. Resident Evil 4 players have the choice to save the dog or leave it to suffer. If players take the time to save the dog, they will be rewarded for their efforts later on. Saving the dog in the original Resident Evil 4 sees him make a comeback later in the game when Leon is fighting the monstrous El Gigante. However, it seems that the Resident Evil 4 remake may be taking away the ability to save the dog. As pointed out by IGN, the dog in the Resident Evil 4 remake appears to already be dead when players find it in the bear trap. This is a rather heartbreaking change to say the least. Of course, it's possible that this isn't the whole story. Maybe the Resident Evil 4 remake will still let players change the dog, but this dead dog was shown for shock value. Then again, killing the dog does set a grim tone for the game right off the bat, reiterating that this new version of Resident Evil 4 is darker and more serious than the original. So perhaps we really won't be able to save it this time around. It will be interesting to see what other changes are made to the game besides killing off the dog. The Resident Evil 4 Remake is making combat changes that will give Leon more ways to defend himself, like a parry mechanic and the ability to set cows on fire, but it's still retaining his over-the-top melee attacks. Toward the end of the original, after learning that both Ashley and Leon were infected with the Las Plagas virus, Sadler is eventually able to take full command of Ashley's body. Despite this, Leon was still able to see his mission to a successful end. With the facilities already in the area, they were both able to extract the virus from their bodies, at the risk of death. Not only does this introduce the question of how this will play out in the remake, but it also has the potential of changing how gameplay sections with this character will unfold. If she is to be kidnapped on more occasions only for her to be rescued by Leon yet again, it would be a little less believable due to the grounded and realistic tone Capcom is aiming for. This time around, it appears as though there is a larger focus on the virus taking over Ashley's body, potentially having a pivotal role in how the story will wrap up. Doing so could result in one of the most shocking twists and endings in the event that Ashley does not make it, and the ending here won't be as happy ever after as the original. Considering the darker theme and tone, it isn't out of the question for Capcom to throw a spanner in the works and make the task at hand far more difficult. The lake, pond, is one of the more memorable sections of Resident Evil 4. Not only is it an early boss that demonstrates the scale of some of the enemies in this game, but it effectively takes away any upgrades you may have, even in New Game Plus, as you're limited to the spear as a weapon. The brief glimpse of the monster we get in the trailer shows a bit of a redesign that seems more threatening than what we're used to. I wouldn't be surprised if this boss battle had more strategic elements to it than just throwing a spear at a monster and trying to not get hit out of a boat. Salazar has always been a super weird character. He simultaneously comes across as an old man and a child, throwing tantrums every time Leon escapes unharmed. His redesign is one of the most startling parts of the Resident Evil 4 Remake trailer. More context is needed to get a full feel of the character, but where the initial game leaned into him being more of a cartoon character, it's possible we'll get more depth this time around. Either way, spoilers for the Resident Evil 4 original game, I hope he still turns into a giant plant when it comes time to finally take him down. Producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi has revealed that the Resident Evil 4 Remake will barely have any quick-time events, QTEs. The information comes from an interview between the Capcom producer and IGN, via Eurogamer. During the interview, Hirabayashi admits that people have different definitions of what a QTE is. I can say that there aren't prompts to press buttons mid-cutscene. Some PS5 developers still use QTEs. Like Until Dawn Studio, but QTEs were a popular feature in action games of the 2000s that would task players to quickly press a particular button before their characters met an instant demise in an interactive cutscene. Sometimes these situations provided exciting moments with well-timed knife-fighting maneuvers and infamous boulder-punching sequences. At the same time, other QTEs would be put in place to clumsily dodge a falling halberd or large rocks. The recent gameplay video of RE4 showed the infamous scene of Leon struggling through an entire village of foes. Each villager looks unique and far more detailed than they did in the original version. The intense remake gameplay proved Resident Evil May 4th be the goriest RE game yet. Players also got a better look at the lumbering Chainsaw Man, in a sequence that demonstrated Leon's new ability to counter a previously fatal attack with a quick button press. Hirabayashi affirms in the interview that there will still be circumstantial moments requiring a quickly timed button press during combat. Still, players will not need to worry about pressing the wrong button in the middle of a vital cutscene. As far as Resident Evil 4's length goes, it's actually one of the longer games in Capcom's long-running survival horror series. Most Resident Evil games are short and can be beaten within a few hours for those that have the puzzles and item locations memorized. But the original Resident Evil 4 takes most people an average of 15 to 20 hours to beat. Considering this, fans can expect the Resident Evil 4 Remake to take around 15 to 20 hours to beat as well once the game launches early next year. Of course, this number will be increased significantly for those that try to 100% complete everything that the Resident Evil 4 Remake has to offer. Assuming it's set up like the original Resident Evil 4, fans can expect new Game Plus options and plenty of reasons to go back through even if after they've hit the end credits. There's also the possibility of the Resident Evil 4 Remake having Mercenaries mode as well. The game likely has even more changes in store, and we will get to see them all early next year. Capcom has revealed the exclusive bonuses that will be earned when pre-ordering the upcoming remake of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil developers revealed a whole host of exciting announcements for the series at the Resident Evil Showcase 2022, with updates on Resident Evil 4 being among the most exciting for fans. Upon its release in 2005, as a GameCube exclusive, Resident Evil 4 revolutionized the survival horror and third-person shooter genres. Capcom developed a new intuitive precision aiming feature and utilized an over-the-shoulder view which offset the camera to one side to ensure the player's character was not blocking the action. These new features set the precedent for the majority of action shooters to come and led the game to be considered by many as one of the greatest video games of all time, following the success of the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes. Capcom officially announced a Resident Evil 4 remake was in development in June of 2022. During the Resident Evil Showcase on October 21, the producer of Resident Evil 4, Yoshiaki Hirabayashi, revealed the exclusive pre-order bonuses that players will receive when pre-ordering each edition of the game. The game will come in 3 variants, the Standard, Deluxe and Collector's editions, which are all available for pre-order now. Fans who confirm their pre-orders of any edition will receive the attaché case gold and special charm handgun ammo, which can both be used to customize Leon's usual in-game inventory system, the attaché case. Those who pre-order the digital version from PlayStation Store will also receive a mini soundtrack. Deluxe edition of the game will cost gamers $70 and includes a copy of Resident Evil 4 along with a collection of bonus DLC. The included DLC give gamers 4 new costumes and a pair of sunglasses for Leon, 2 new costumes for Ashley, 2 in-game weapons, a soundtrack swap, and a treasure map to help players find secret items that can't be discovered in the Standard Edition. For gamers looking for the ultimate Resident Evil 4 experience, the Collector's Edition of the game will be available for $250 and include a whole bevy of physical and digital collectibles along with the game. The Resident Evil 4 Collector's Edition comes in a themed box filled with a steelbook case for the game, an art book and map of the game world, product codes for DLC, a copy of the soundtrack, and a detailed figurine of Leon S. Kennedy looking locked, loaded, and ready to take on the game's parasitic hordes. For gamers not ready to shell out extra cash for the special editions, there will also be pre-order bonuses for Resident Evil 4's Standard Edition. Resident Evil 4 is one of the most beloved and acclaimed entries in the Resident Evil franchise, and the bonuses included with the Deluxe and Collector's editions of the game seem sure to please hardcore fans of the title. Frustration has grown regarding Capcom's decision to monetize certain Resident Evil 4 remake treasure maps as part of the Resident Evil 4 Deluxe Edition. Modern Deluxe Editions often include a variety of digital DLC to make them more appealing. Having a remake of Resident Evil 4 find new ways to monetize content that wasn't monetized before, however, doesn't sit well with some Resident Evil fans. The Resident Evil 4 Deluxe Edition was announced during Thursday's Resident Evil Showcase 2022 live stream. The Deluxe Edition bundles the remake of Resident Evil 4 for a player's chosen platform with a bonus DLC pack. The pack includes 4 character skins, 2 weapons, an accessory, and an original version soundtrack swap. What Resident Evil fans have taken issue with is a treasure map expansion item that unlocks new treasures in Resident Evil 4 that can't be obtained otherwise. Resident Evil fans on Reddit called attention to the treasure map item, asking others why Capcom is placing in-game collectibles beyond a paywall. Responses include generalities like how games these days never give you everything without making you pay more. Another user jokingly takes issue with the original question, insinuating this isn't a new phenomenon and mentioning Dead Space 3 doing something similar 9 years ago. Most of PlayStation's first-party exclusives have avoided this kind of monetization. Resident Evil 4 Remake launches March 24, 2023 for PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. During the Resident Evil Showcase on October 21, 2022, the producer of Resident Evil 4, Yoshiaki Hirabayashi, began by showing off a world premiere look at impressive in-game footage of the remake. The preview followed Leon S. Kennedy, donning his trademark leather jacket, investigating a mysterious rural village in search for the president's daughter. Hirabayashi then announced that PlayStation 4 versions of the remake would receive a free upgrade to the digital version for the PlayStation 5. Making the hop from last-gen to next-gen completely cost-free. Resident Evil 4's producer has claimed that there are no current plans for a Resident Evil, Code Veronica remake. Thanks to multiple outstanding presentations from Capcom, fans have quickly gone from cautious regarding the remake of Resident Evil 4, one of the most beloved horror games ever made, to optimistic. Especially after the recent Resident Evil showcase which featured uncut gameplay. Before RE4 made its big comeback though, fans were hoping Capcom would remake the Code Veronica, one of the most underrated entries in the series. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like this will be happening anytime soon. Resident Evil Code Veronica first released in 2000 for Sega's Dreamcast console before eventually coming to PlayStation 2 and GameCube under the title Resident Evil Code Veronica X. The game was originally developed as Resident Evil 3, however after a deal was struck with Sony to make Resident Evil 3 a PS1 exclusive. Capcom rebranded an in-development spin-off starring Jill Valentine that would eventually become known as Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Code Veronica follows Claire Redfield as she searches for her brother, Chris, and is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 2. Being that Code Veronica is a key entry in the series that released between Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4. Fans had speculated that Capcom would choose to remake the game following 2020's Resident Evil 3 remake before heading on to remake Resident Evil 4. Unfortunately, this was not the case, as Resident Evil 4's remake was announced in June 2022. While some RE fans still hold out hope that Code Veronica will receive a remake. Resident Evil 4's producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi claimed in an interview with Noisy Pixel that there are currently no plans for one, but if the opportunity comes, maybe. Being that Code Veronica is the next main series game to take place chronologically following the events of Resident Evil 3. It's understandable why fans have lobbied so much for a remake of the game, with some even going so far as to make one themselves. Many regard Code Veronica as one of the series' weaker entries, seeing the remake as an opportunity for Capcom to improve upon a title that had a troubled development and stuck out as a black sheep in the series. Hirabayashi's comment does leave room for speculation however, as Capcom might be looking towards more niche titles in the series to remake after the release of Resident Evil 4. Especially as it seems unlikely that the company would remake titles as recent as Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. Games like Code Veronica and Resident Evil Outbreak might be up for remake consideration at Capcom after Resident Evil 4 releases. The Resident Evil showcase provided fans with a lot to take in and look forward to, including a suspenseful in-depth look at the Shadows of Rose DLC for Resident Evil Village. Director of the Winter's expansion, Kento Kinoshita, also explained a little more about what fans can expect from the story continuation, which will give fans the lowdown on what exactly is going on with Rose Winters and what to expect from the Resident Evil Village Gold Edition overall. Protagonist Ethan Winters' franchise debut came in Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, released in 2017, as he fought off the infected Baker family to save his wife Mia. The following installment, Resident Evil Village, followed the new father as he battled an entire Romanian village full of mutated monsters to save his infant daughter Rose, who turned out to be more than meets the eye. After the release of Village, Capcom mentioned that DLC would be released to tie up the story of the Winters family and their part to play in the Resident Evil universe. Kinoshita quickly stated that his intention with this DLC was to highlight what type of person the new protagonist, Rose Winters, who was introduced as a baby in the Resident Evil Village base game, would turn out to be as she grew up. The Shadows of Rose DLC will also have players explore the main village once again, but with a twist unique to Rose's story. Now, the quest requires players to help Rose get rid of her mysterious unwanted powers. The newest setting will be the Realm of Consciousness, which throws different hurdles players will have to deal with on a nightmarish level. Kinoshita mentioned that fear is a huge driving force and source of misery for Rose's journey through the Realm of Consciousness. The trailer showcased mutated organisms attached to walls of a narrow hallway as well as creepy giant dolls haunting Rose's every step, proving that the DLC will certainly be nightmare fuel for. Though Rose was the focus of the expansion, and her story will have the most to offer from the Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, there are other additions to the Winter's expansion. It was announced that a third-person mode will be available for players who prefer it over the usual first-person perspective. Along with the change in POV, players can experience the game through Mercenaries mode additional orders, where players can play as other lords with special powers. Kinoshita stated the decision to add specific characters was for those who might not normally play in Mercenaries mode. Sadly, the Winters expansion serves as the conclusion to the Winters family story arc in the series. Though fans were looking forward to Rose perhaps becoming another main protagonist, or possible antagonist, in the series, it appears the Winters family story will conclude with a truly suspenseful bang. For those waiting to see where the story of Rose Winters will lead the franchise as a whole and how the family story will tie into the franchise itself, this DLC might assuage their curiosity. It might also be the biggest hint at what Capcom has planned next for the series once Resident Evil Village has officially concluded. Capcom first revealed specific news of the Winters expansion, a DLC package which includes the Shadows of Rose campaign, at the Capcom Showcase in June 2022. The expansion was also revealed to contain a third-person mode for Resident Evil Village and new Mercenaries mode content that adds Lady Dimitrescu, Lord Heisenberg, and Chris Redfield as playable characters, alongside 2 new stages. The Shadows of Rose campaign is a story expansion set 16 years after the events of Village, featuring the titular Rose Winters as the main protagonist. Rose must enter the consciousness of the Megamycete to break free from the terrifying powers she inherited from her experiences in Resident Evil Village. Capcom's Resident Evil Showcase on October 20th gave fans a new trailer reveal for the Shadows of Rose DLC, which gave a glimpse of a host of mutated creatures that will push Rose to her limits. In a PlayStation blog post, Tsuyoshi Kanda, producer of Resident Evil Village, unveiled a number of new promotional images to complement the trailer that give a better look at some of the monsters that lurk in the consciousness of the Megamycete. Tall, grotesque humanoids who bear a resemblance to Resident Evil 7's molded have been revealed as face eaters who steal the life from other living beings. And Rose can be seen facing off against a plant-esque monster that looks to have been inspired by Plant 43 encountered in Resident Evil 2 Remake. In additional promotional images, dark and gruesome environments are on show along with a multi-faced, mutated creature grimacing in pain and wrapped in barbed wire. The usually friendly merchant, the Duke, has had an evil makeover in a marquee mask flanked by grotesque creatures. Kanda went on to state that, this realm is a world where many traps and monstrosities lurk. However, Rose can only carry a handgun, a little bit of ammo, and first aid med, which suggests players will have to utilize the careful resource management strategies of earlier games to survive. The monsters of Resident Evil have been a high point for fans of the franchise, with iconic creatures such as Lickers, Crimson Heads, Tyrant variants, and the mutated stages of William Birkin's G Abomination pushing the limits of body horror creativity. Originality in enemy design seemed a little lacking in the base monsters of Resident Evil 7 and Village when compared to some of the more beloved creatures of the franchise. Fortunately, from these images it seems fans may be in for a treat when Shadows of Rose is released. Resident Evil Village is the 8th installment to the main timeline of the franchise and a direct sequel to 2017's Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Resident Evil 7 was an attempt by Capcom to take the franchise back to its survival horror roots after fans were divided by the over-the-top, action-focused direction the series took with Resident Evil 6. The 7th installment introduced new protagonist Ethan Winters, and immersed players in a dark and dangerous world by using a first-person perspective for the first time in the main canon timeline series history. Praised for the engaging and terrifying story, and a true return to Resident Evil's exploration-based survival horror roots, Resident Evil Village continued Ethan's story and garnered high praise for its variety, gameplay, and characters, namely fan favorite, Lady Dimitrescu. During Capcom's Resident Evil Showcase on October 21, 2022, Kento Kinoshita, director of the Winters expansion, revealed that a 60-minute demo is now available and can be played in either the original first-person mode or the new Resident Evil Village third-person perspective. Capcom made known its plans for the immediate future of the Resident Evil series during the Resident Evil Showcase event that was broadcast on October 20th. And the long-delayed multiplayer title Resident Evil Reverse was a major part of the presentation. Initially set to release alongside Resident Evil Village in 2021, the PvP title's status laid in limbo for quite some time. But it's now known that Resident Evil Reverse will officially launch alongside the Winters expansion DLC on October 27th. And it seems that Capcom has prepared at least 3 major post-launch content updates. When it was first revealed more than a year ago, Resident Evil Reverse was met with significant backlash from the community. Perceived by many to be an unnecessary multiplayer-focused spin-off that haphazardly clashed legacy characters and environments together and spoiled established canon. Few expected Resident Evil Reverse to rise above previous multiplayer-centric series flops like Resident Evil Resistance and Umbrella Corps. Now, however, perceptions seem to have shifted slightly, and Capcom's confirmation of ample post-launch updates suggests that this may outshine the franchise's previous PvP efforts. Resident Evil Reverse will launch with 6 survivors, 5 creatures, 2 stages, a challenge mission, and a 30-tier battle pass. And post-launch patches will introduce a total of 3 survivors, 17 costumes, 3 challenge missions, an extra stage, and 60 more battle pass tiers coming in 3 separate post-release updates. The publisher also insists that more content will come after the fact, though that promise is likely predicated on the health of the game's player base in the weeks and months following its release. Given that little concerning Resident Evil Reverse's inner workings is currently known, it's hard to say how worthwhile this lineup of post-launch content will be. However, there is no debating the rich history of Resident Evil characters, creatures, scenarios, and areas from which the developers have to pull. What's more, canon doesn't seem to be a concern, and, while that may irritate some longtime Resident Evil fans, it also presents some unique possibilities from a gameplay and presentation perspective. Resident Evil fans who aren't interested in Resident Evil Reverse needn't be disappointed. Much of the fan base is currently looking forward to the release of the Resident Evil 4 Remake in early 2023. The recent Resident Evil showcase saw the debut of 2 trailers for the title which hint at the fact that, in spite of the graphical overhaul, the heart of the fan-favorite series entry has been preserved. Regardless, it's certainly an exciting time to be a fan of the seminal survival horror franchise. Thanks to Resident Evil Man, if it wasn't for Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, we wouldn't have gotten Silent Hill and Dead Space back and Callisto Protocol. And also thanks to PT for rejuvenating horror in the indie space. And that's all for the video guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.